Okay, so here was me, I guess, querying, plunging the depths of the Claude neural network for some way of understanding what would happen if there was like no uh, economy that we're used to. In other words, like if AI quote unquote automated everything and nobody had a job, what would that look like? Whether or not AI really could do that, I don't know. But the idea is that if you look at an extreme situation and you think to yourself, well, how would I pay my mortgage? So that's ultimately what I'm trying to do here. Um, and so what I started out with was, um, well, how do you even like express an economy, right? So I asked Claude this, and so this is probably because I'm a developer. So I started out with saying, like, how do you express this textually? Is there like a domain specific language? And so that probably threw Claude in the direction of using this stuff that it did. So it's pretty cool. This is almost always cool. It shows a very simple representation where you have the person and the good that they have, and then the person that they're giving the good to. I think, by the way, I should say this out loud. What is the absolute minimalist model of the economy that could be expressed, and how would it be expressed? Is it some sort of markup, like HTML or Markdown? And I also specify economy would mean a person giving a good to another person, or I guess I should say exchanging or selling. Um, so so here we go. We have Alice giving bread to Bob. This kind of looks like a Haskell function type signature, but anyway. And then Bob giving money to Alice. So this is an exchange of a good for money. And then it says an even more complex one would be Alice bread to Bob, and then it connects Bob to Alice with money. So that's cool. Then I mean, if you if you're a conceptual type person, you'd absolutely love this stuff. It shows you a YAML approach where you have like an object where you have a from, a to, a good, and the quantity and the amount. And then here we have a graph, a dot notation. I've never actually used this before, but I've seen it, whatever. And then it gets fancy with an algebra. That freaks me out right now, although I'm sure if you kind of dominated that field, that would be cool. But then it also says, why don't you just do them as triples, like like the three part tuple, which would be a triple. Um, and then let's see here. Yeah, so if you used dot, then you would already you would have visualizations tools, which is cool. I did suspect that, like, even if you did encode an economy in something like this markup, you're not expressing the how things are transitioning or changing over time, and how goods and services are changing over time. Um, so I did say, how does this change when the economy is based on a barter rather than money? I think what I was suspecting was that there's either a period of time where the whatever the given currency is so unreliable, or I don't know, inflated or something, or there is no money, and so you're trying to figure out how to barter, right? So I don't know if that's a valid assumption, but I guess it's one of the situations to possibly deal with, right? So Claude says, in a pure barter, you need two transactions for a trade to happen, which is a cool, way to break things down. So you have Alice gives bread to Bob, and then Bob gives eggs to Alice. So obviously just like, I guess, what inventory you have on hand, and you have to find a person that wants that thing, which obviously this makes needing a marketplace a thing. Um, and not the type of marketplace we have right now. But I'll go into that in a little bit. Um, and so let's see here. And then both parties must want what the other has. The minimal model is, so it's using an and here, which I think this is Boolean logic stuff. So Alice, bread, and Bob, and then Bob, eggs, and Alice. It mentions a constraint. The trades must form cycles bilateral or multilateral. Interesting. Okay, so I guess it's cycling back. Yeah, so Alice gives bread to Bob. Bob gives eggs to Carol. And then ultimately, Carol gives milk to Alice. So uh, it's interesting. I wonder why it chose to do three of them. But I guess this is the same as the one above where you just have these two here. Okay, so money economy with money, you only need one direct. This is so interesting. Okay, so for a money economy, you only need uh, one direction of real goods. So this is, I guess, this is Alice gives bread to Bob, and then Bob gives money to Alice because money acts as a universal counterflow. So the model simplifies to Alice, bread, Bob, $5. So I guess what they're saying, what it's saying is that you don't. I don't know. I don't really know what that means. The key difference: money breaks the cycle requirement. Ah, that's the reason. Okay, Bob doesn't need to produce something Alice wants. He just needs money. Ah, Bob does not produce something that Alice wants. He just needs money. Okay, really interesting. Okay, so yeah, so barter graphs must have cycles. um, Alice, Bob, Alice. A money graph can be a tree or any structure. I didn't even look at this closely when I was chatting about this before. So, um, yeah, so Alice gives to Bob, Alice gives to Carol, Bob gives to Dave. So there's no cycles back to the original person. In a barter, Alice and Bob to Alice. There's this little like signature here that it's like a back and forth arrow. A left and right arrow indicates that both must exchange, so it's like duplex. Um, whereas this is so interesting. I wonder what I mean. I don't even know if that's like a syntax anywhere in any kind of like economics research, or I don't know. Where does it pick up this? Is it making this up? I don't know. So this arrow is sufficient. Money is implicit counterflow. Oh, so the counterflow, the flow back. Okay, so why this matters? In bartering, you need to track bilateral matching. So it put this in Python. It's like, okay, cool. I like that. I've seen this stuff before. So can trade A B. So if A and B are tradable, then it has to be satisfied that um, there's an A and a wanter of B, and B as a wanter of A. Okay, we know that. Um, I'm not gonna go this. I can't even parse this right now. Just doing this on the fly. So yeah, the money economy is simpler to model because it factors through a single commodity rather than requiring pairwise matching. Okay, and then I'm like, okay, well, all right. So the reason I asked the next question, are there or can there be economies that blend barter and money? Is I'm thinking, okay, well, that is a complicated situation. I think, like, how would I deal with that? Is there a simpler situation, or at least, a situation where we're helped out a little bit, where maybe there is some money? I don't really know why that would be the case. I don't yet understand money as a value inherently. I mean, I do and I don't. Here Claude says, absolutely, there can be a mix. Most real economies are hybrid. I guess that makes sense. And I'm like, oh yeah, totally. Like I literally barter with my good friend for um, fixing house stuff. Um, and I don't mind asking for money. We just kind of trade our time. And I'm like, yeah, that's totally the case. So anyway, so money exists, but barter happens alongside it. So interesting. So Alice gives trades bread and for money with Bob. Carol trades repairs for vegetables with Dave. Very cool. Yeah. So that's that's where you have an exchange between a service and a product. I kind of like that. Just want to mention that. So, real examples, informal or rural economies where the neighbor fixes your car and you help with harvest. Love it. Business barter exchanges add space for consulting services. I have never heard of that, but that's cool. I think that's intriguing. International trade, oil for infrastructure projects. I wonder how often that happens. Partial money, some goods monetized, others not. Very interesting. Okay. Bob gives, sorry, Alice gives bread to Bob, and Bob gives money to Alice. Alice gives childcare to Carol, and Carol gives elder care to Alice. Reciprocal care. Ooh, could you call reciprocal care like a type of transaction? Um, okay, so let me jump ahead to the part that was really interesting to me. Oh, actually, this part over here, and I skipped over this because this always happens when you're chatting because there's so much text. Um, credit-based bartering, money-like accounting without currency, money-like accounting. Okay, very interesting, right? So you have just barter, and you have money, but then you have credit-based barter, which is like I don't know, is that some sort of in between? So if Alice gives bread to Bob, uh, Bob now owes Alice one credit. So you kind of made bread be a credit. If Bob gives eggs to Carol, now Carol owes Bob one credit. So if Carol gives milk to Alice, if Carol gives milk to Alice, it settles Alice's credit. Hmm. Okay. So, and there's actually a thing like this. There's a WIR bank in Switzerland. Hawala networks. What in the world are Hawala networks? I've never even seen that. Let's see if I can just Google that real quick. What are Hawala networks? An informal trust-based system of transferring money. Uh, good old encyclopedia. Where does this even come from? Interesting. Located in the Middle East, North America, and Horn of Africa. Okay. The wisdom that's already here that we just don't remember or know about. Okay. Historical tally stick systems. I mean, that's so close to money, isn't it? All right. Anyway, there's a big challenge here that I don't know how to get past. We'll get to that. Okay. So some goods serve as both use value and some goods serve as both use value and exchange medium. So interesting that I gave this example of cigarettes. Alice gives cigarettes to Bob. Bob gives cigarettes to Carol. And cigarettes are both a good and a money. Okay, so examples are prison economies, where you have either cigarettes or ramen. Ooh, does that mean that this kind of commodity or whatever becomes like a okay? So it's like a currency. Post collapse economies, salt, grain, or fuel. I mean, that's what we're talking about here, possibly, right? I don't know. Um, I don't even shouldn't even be laughing. Historical cattle, shells, or precious metals. Yeah, this is like currency. Okay, and a minimal DSL for hybrid economies. So now it's going into like yet another markup language for hybrid economies. So now it doesn't. Now it's expressing a list of transactions, and here we have the object from to give receive, and then it has a clearing attribute. So interesting. Okay, so and the clearing attribute has an enumeration of here's monetary, bilateral barter, mutual credit. So you're expressing a market that has an enumeration or variable clearing methodologies or whatever. Like how interesting is that? Why hybrids exist? Transaction costs. Sometimes barter is cheaper. Trust networks. Close relationships use reciprocity, not money. So justifications for the different types of transactions. Uh, Liquidity constraints. When money is scarce, barter fills the gaps. So I think this maybe that's what we're talking about. I don't know. I wonder if I can dive into this stuff. Different value systems. Some goods feel wrong to monetize. Value systems, how you value stuff. Okay, interesting. Um, and then tax avoidance. I wonder if why these hybrids exist. I wonder if this is all of them, because everything that an LLM tells you is not necessarily exhaustive, nor do you want it to be exhaustive necessarily, because then you wouldn't like get through the conversation. Sometimes when you ask it to or tell it to respond concisely, like that'll literally help you get through the conversation. Anyway, tax avoidance, unreported barter escapes taxation. Okay, reasonable. Now it offers a spectrum. Wow, there's a lot of value here. Okay, so you go from, of course, pure barter to hybrid to pure money. Most economies sit in the middle with a mix depending on legal framework, the tech involved, are there payment systems, cultural norms, economic stress, crises push towards barter. Okay, I think that's what primed me to write this. I mean, after all, I am a neural network mostly. I think. Does this match what you were thinking about? Are you interested in modeling a specific type of hybrid system? I don't know if I directly answered that. I wanted to go into. I believe the minimal DSL for hybrid economies is so far the best to use. So that's when it used minimal DSL for hybrid economies. I was psyched about the fact that it listed it as transactions, and I liked the fact that it showed differing, like an enumeration of different clearing types. Um, uh, However, what if we add a concept of an inventory of things that people need overall? Because what I was thinking of is like I'm going back to like, what's the survival mechanism here? How do we stay civil, and how do we kind of survive? Ideally, we retain the status quo, but I mean, if you think I don't know if that's necessarily like reasonable to expect, right? So, all right, so what if we had a concept of inventory of things that people need overall to express both potential transactions and eventually necessary transactions? In other words, how do we express what people need? And so, how could we enhance the DSL to express that? Should we have an attribute in each object that represents requested or some enumeration of requested and fulfilled? So this is jumping into basically what a market is. So we don't want to just have a transaction records. We want a living economy with needs and fulfillment. So that's what I was going to before with. I was saying we don't really want a static graph of bartering or whatever. We need to express an economy moving over time that that can somehow, how can it survive when the currency is challenged, right? Or when there's the traditional sense of what we do for work is not there. So so it says separate inventory and needs sections. So you have people with things that they can trade, but things that they need. And then you have transactions, where I guess these things have, whenever one of these things have been transacted, so you record them. And so this was the separate inventory and need sections. And then there's need status as a transaction attribute. Need status as a transaction attribute. So it took what did it do? Okay, has, wants are in the agents. And then transactions fulfills these bobs.wants.bread 3. Alice.wants money. I don't know. I just didn't like that. Needs with status tracking. Okay. So putting the needs in the agents, I mean, I guess you could derive that from the transactions themselves. So you might want to take the needs out of the agent object and put it into the transaction. So let's see here. Okay, offer exists but not accepted. Status pending. Again, these are things you can put into the transaction. And then the option number 4 is the market oriented or most expressive, which I was like, okay, cool, because I used to support trading systems. I didn't write them, but so now here we have inventory, desires in the market. So there's a big object called the market, and it has different agents in it. It has a list of agents. Each agent expresses what their inventory is and what their desires are, which these are, I guess, these are bids and these are offers. So, but then, okay, it's what they have, but not necessarily what they're offering. The offers are explicitly called out separately. So we have an offer from Alice selling bread. So this corresponds to what she has up here. This is like so cool to me. I don't even know why. I'm like ridiculously excited right now. Okay, and then you have matched offers. I guess because it resembles the trading systems that I used to support. So it's recommending option 3. I actually wanted option 4, and I don't know why, but let's just go into option 3. Oh no. Why does it want option 3? Because you have needs and has, and the transaction has. Oh, I think it's because it's listing potentials. So it's almost like it's making recommendations. Like it's offering the matching. But the other one had matching too, matched transactions. I don't know. I guess there's pros and cons to both. Um, Key decisions, separate needs from inventory, cleaner to track what you have versus what you want. Enum status, fulfilled, pending, partial, unfulfilled, pending, partial, or fulfilled. Transaction links explicitly shows which needs a transaction. Explicitly shows which needs a transaction satisfies. Okay. And then potential extensions, not just quantity but quality, timing, location. Interesting. I don't know. That can be pretty complex. You might want to make that spill out into a chat. Obviously, I'm looking at like, is this a marketplace application? But because I'm just thinking about SaaS and marketplaces all the time because I'm a dev. But anyway, negotiation, request for quote reminds me of that. I say let's go with market oriented, most expressive. And then I'm like, well, wait a minute, can you make this a Prisma schema? And the reason for that is I was thinking every transaction is going to end up being a row. Or, I mean, if you wanted to track transactions kind of immutably or whatever over time so that you could track them, because there's more information in the flow of a marketplace over time. So, I mean, this is like a combination of, how would this economy even work? Could it work? Do we need it to work? Do we need to explore this, right? And then, kind of ironically, I guess, can you use AI to and software development or some sort of product to help out with this, right? And so that's why I'm going toward like, for all those reasons, I'm going for like, well, give me like a schema, right? So obviously, this is like the forte of these things is of the LLMs is like translating from one language to the next. So you have YAML or triples into an actual schema. Beautiful. If you love enums and you love referential integrity, you would dig this too. Okay, and then so key design decisions. Okay, I want to get to the point where I ask it. Okay. So and then I'm like, well, like with everything else, right? You come up with an idea, and it's like there's got to be stuff out there already. So yes, there is. There literally is several existing systems that regular people use for trading, buying, selling outside of traditional money markets. So yes, these things literally exist. I haven't confirmed these though, but they really. I'm just going to say them out loud. So there's Time Banks USA, Our World. Um, they have some pros and cons of all these things. There's a local exchange trading system, Let's, which there's one in the Let's Link UK, various community currency systems. Let me just Google this real quick and see. All right, there's a post on Reddit from 5 months ago. Somebody deleted it. And so, yeah, there's that. All right, so, um, and then there's mutual credit networks. There's the WIR Bank in Switzerland. Um, and then barter exchanges, iTex, Bix Exchange, BizX. A lot of stuff here. Barter swap platforms, peer-to-peer trading of goods, free cycle, buy nothing project, Facebook groups. Obviously, I know in San Diego these are actually big, and then Bunts in Canada, and then cryptocurrency and token systems, digital tokens used as alternative currencies, and then for AI automation scenario, what would work? What would work best? For a post-automation economy where most people lose jobs, you'd want a hybrid system. I didn't even read this. I just skimmed past this. This is like exactly what I was after. Hybrid system combining universal basic income, baseline survival guaranteed with a dignity without forced make. Oh, okay. Um, time banking, mutual credit for community services, contributory system, open source development, commons based peer production. Commons based peer production. We haven't even touched on like, okay, well, how do you, what about everything else? What about the goods and services that humans were making before, but now they're not? And so like, there's this like, well, what's the value difference between a thing a human makes and a thing a machine makes, right? Because that's there, and I want to explore that. I really do. I think it's like essential to underpinning like what we're doing, not just what we're exchanging. What we're doing and why we're doing it, and why we want what we're doing. But I'll get into that in another, I guess, another video. Okay, so uh, why existing systems haven't scaled? Obviously, the number one thing is we haven't had a hardcore reason to need to use one of these systems or a few of these systems. I wonder if you could find ways to aggregate across them, or to translate from one system to the other, because that would remind me of like market aggregation that they do in like, I don't know, equities and FX markets. Okay, so let's see here. Most promising model. I haven't read this. Participatory economics with digital commons. Basic needs met through automated production. I don't agree with that. I mean, I think yes, opt for it. I don't know. Would that just be a gravity well and it's something the only thing you'd do? I don't know. But all right, so let's go to. All right, so I say let's think about this. If everyone loses their jobs, but their needs remain the same, and assuming UBI doesn't materialize in time, people should still be able to help each other in a coordinated approach using these types of markets. Um, Obviously, little bit of being agreeable. Of course, the AI. Um, People still have skills, time, and needs. Just no money flowing through traditional unemployment employment, maybe. So yeah, the advantages of alternative markets, direct matching, utilizing idle capacity, local resilience. Uh, so yeah, what's needed to make this work is a digital platform, clearing units of account, reputation or trust system, and a way to handle essentials that can't be bartered. So this is the thing that I was also like, I'm looking for confirmation, obviously. Of course, well, it doesn't give you blind confirmation. It does rebut you, which is good. But a way to handle essentials that can't be bartered. This is what I can't even figure out right now, which is um, what I asked over here, because I didn't read everything it wrote. How do you pay a mortgage with this? And so it's like, yeah, this is a critical friction point. Like mortgage banks don't care about your time credits or mutual credit balances. It offers some workarounds. Conversion gateway. Someone in the alternative economy does have dollars. You trade them services to pay your mortgage in cash. I don't even know how this holds together. I don't know. Collective bargaining. If enough people use alternative currency, landlords or banks might accept it. Interesting. So definitely something to dive into. I have 100 tenants who can pay only in time credits. Accept them or lose everyone. Fascinating. Is that like leverage? I mean, tenant leverage? Really interesting. Okay. Earn conventional money for fixed costs. Earn conventional money for fixed costs. Alternative economy for food, childcare, repairs, healthcare. work, gig, part-time jobs. I think that's glazing over the problem. I don't know. Maybe I have to look into that more. But don't tell me brutal reality. We are going to be hopeful and innovative here. So that's where it left off. All right. Thank you.